Epstein, PDD, the Pillico trial. Telegram groups where men teach each other how to drug and rape women. Across the world, a wave of shocking cases is reuniting debate over consent. And it's forcing governments to rethink their laws. Now, EU lawmakers have agreed to push forward a uniform, bloc-wide definition of rape, based on one key principle. Only yes means yes.
Silence cannot be interpreted as a yes. The absence of no is not necessarily a yes, but the absence of yes is always a no.
Evan Inchia was among the leading voices behind the legislative push.
Our legislation cannot see any borders, and we also have free movement in our union, and therefore these kind of very serious violences cannot be connected to where you live, because women and girls, regardless of where they are, needs to have the same protection. The only way to ensure a holistic protection is to ensure that there is a yes means yes legislation.
Criminal law experts agree.
In sexual crimes, there has to be a common nucleus. It is not possible to have completely divergent regulation on this matter in different member states.
Rape is criminalized in every EU country, but fewer than 60% currently define rape based on consent. The rest still rely on no means no, or force-based laws, where victims may have to prove they resisted, said no, or were subjected to violence.
Today, in those countries who do not have yes means yes legislations, women still need to show bruises, that they have been hit, they are bleeding, or that they have been defending themselves in different ways.
There are many reasons why survivors wouldn't necessarily say no or fight back when being assaulted, from freezing in traumatic situations to being drugged. According to the European Institute for Gender Equality, women are almost twice as likely to be raped through coercion or an inability to refuse than through physical force.
It's important that we move all towards the lack of consent-based definition of rape, because it reflects more the life experience of women. We need to ensure that in the end, the women will feel that she's been validated, her experience has been validated.
Most rapes are committed not by strangers, but by intimate partners or people the victim knows. And many survivors are afraid they won't be believed, especially when there are no visible signs of violence. Only 3% of women who were raped by a partner or a family member report the crime, according to the European Institute for Gender Equality. Experts hope that changing the law could encourage more women to speak out and report gender-based violence.
I expect that more people see that their cases are being taken seriously. More people do report. The law enforcement do take it seriously. And there is also a mental change among those who are working with the survivors.
Critics of the yes means yes model argue that consent could be difficult to prove in court and that cases could come down to one person's word against another's. But this reform was already put to the test in several EU countries that had adopted it in recent years on a national level. So what happened there? The most reliable data comes from Sweden, the first EU country to introduce yes means yes legislation in 2018. Since then, both reported rapes and conviction rates have risen significantly. In fact, conviction rates have doubled. Experts say the legal reform wasn't the only reason.
The legal offense was accompanied by a lot of training, awareness raising campaigns, educational at the schools. We are also changing the norms of the society, and also training the judges and the prosecutors to understand what is a freely given consent, so that we are moving towards also a better accountability of these acts.
EU data suggests that greater awareness and changing attitudes have encouraged more women to report sexual violence. Between 2014 and 2024, sexual violence offences recorded in the EU rose by 94%, while reported rapes increased by 150%. Experts say that likely reflects increased reporting and not necessarily an increase in committed crimes. Spain became one of the biggest EU countries to adopt a yes means yes law in 2022, following a publicized trial in a 2016 gang rape case. An initial ruling that refused to classify the assault as rape because of lacking signs of violence or coercion sparked mass protests until it was overturned by the Supreme Court.
I would say that the Spanish society has changed, and the new regulation is an expression of this change. The mainstream of Spanish society leads to the idea you don't have to use violence to commit a sexual assault. Simply not having consent is enough. So you have to make sure that the person still is in a condition, is not too drunk or not too intoxicated whatsoever, to really state that she or he wants to have that contact.
Since the law was introduced, attitudes around consent and sexual violence have shifted further. A Eurobarometer survey found that in 2024, 85% of people in Spain rejected the idea that women often exaggerate or make up claims of abuse or rape, a significantly higher number of people than in countries without consent-based laws.
We have seen that across the countries, the ones that have moved towards a consent-based definition of rape, that there's a social change as well.
Experts say that's partly because the media started reporting far more extensively on consent after the law changed in Spain. But the reform also sparked fierce political debate and public backlash, a sign of the challenges an EU-wide rollout could face.
We have to try not to get this so politicized. If you're right-wing, then you're against this solution. If you're progressive on the left wing, then you're in favor. This is no good for a rational legislation. So we should prevent the simplifications and the polarization that has taken place in Spain.
The EU already saw a bloc-wide push for a yes means yes law in 2024, but the initiative was met with opposition by countries such as Germany and France, which insisted it's a national and not an EU issue. Yet all EU member states agreed to ratify the Istanbul Convention in 2023 already, which calls on all countries to define rape based on the absence of consent.
Germany, in this case, for example, fails to respect the conventions that they have even themselves ratified. And we cannot have legislations that we say we will be respecting but not implementing.
High-profile cases like Giselle Pelicot's have since intensified the debate around consent, prompting France to change its own rape laws and helping the EU-wide proposal win broad support in the European Parliament. The proposal will now go to the European Commission, which will decide whether to draft legislation to be negotiated with EU member states.
There is a momentum. A lot has changed on a national level. And this momentum, if we don't grab it now, we might lose it. It is in defense of women and girls, but it is also to send a clear signal to possible perpetrators that they should think twice, 3 times, 4 times, or even 5 times before even committing a heinous crime like this, because it will not be met with impunity anymore.